Hello again. So this is the second part of the lecture on the musculoskeletal. The other was 20 minutes long and covered primarily the muscular skeletal system. This is the muscular system, and this was the last slide we left off on. Okay, so clicking through here, skeletal and muscular systems. There are three types of muscle. What are they? In our body, there are cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, and smooth muscle. The ones we're most concerned with are skeletal muscle, secondarily cardiac, and then smooth. But we'll go through all three just to be fair. I want you to see, and we'll see this in the following slides, just the similarities and differences between these three types of muscle. Striated, voluntary. Striated, involuntary. You do not have any control over your heart. And smooth muscle is non-striated, nor is it voluntary. You have no control over the movement of food through your system, nor how blood flows through your vessels. Those are all part of smooth muscle, which is slightly different than the other two types. So skeletal muscle are usually attached to bones. We just discussed that. They are what move our bones. And so if we're going to move, we have to choose to move, whether it's to run to or from something or walk to or from something. Skeletal muscles are responsible for voluntary movements. And when viewed under a microscope at high magnification, skeletal muscle appears to have alternating light and dark bands. And that's why we say striated. For this reason, skeletal muscle is sometimes called striated muscle. Most skeletal muscles are controlled by the central nervous system. So muscles are excitable, just like your nervous system is excitable. They will only flex or move if you decide to make them flex or move. They also respond to touch and hit, just like goosebumps, so to speak, and to temperature. And they pull up on your arm. But for movement, muscles always make the same kind of motion, and that is a pulling motion. So muscles pull. So therefore, if there's going to be movement, one muscle, which is responsible, say, for pulling back, has to relax, while another muscle, say the bicep here, flexes or pulls, and then that way we have motion up. All right, so here we have antagonist. You have the bicep and a tricep, and they work in opposition to each other. If the arm was stiff and straight down, then you probably, or what I should say is, if both muscles were equally flexed, your arm would be more or less straight with a slight bend upward. So there's a lot of nervous system coordination in skeletal muscle movement. So messages that are sent to flex your muscles at the same time have to go a whole nother route to tell other muscles to relax. Isn't that crazy? I think again of just bodybuilders and focus on flexing certain muscles while they have to get that full body pose. You know, that's pretty tough to do to get all your muscles flexed at the same time, tetany, so to speak. So here the tricep muscle is flexing and it's extending the arm, and the bicep flexor muscle is relaxing so that the tricep can pull it down. So you see this all over the body, in your legs and arms primarily. But anytime there's a movement in a direction, you have to have some muscles that are relaxing. This is called an antagonistic effect. Other muscles, like if you look closely here, inserted at this bone, this ligament, tendon, these two muscles are protagonists. They work together to move in the same direction as opposed to antagonist. So that's the way muscles work. They work by pulling. And how does that flexion occur? It happens with ATP energy. Calcium are the two primary molecules that the cells need in order to make flexion and relaxation occur. I mentioned in the last one that if we needed extra calcium, it's going to come from the bones. And that's because, like I said, the heart and the muscles, skeletal muscles, need calcium. And why do they need calcium? They need calcium to flex. Calcium actually binds to a site. There's a location for calcium to bind to on the cells of the muscles. that stimulate it to contract. ATP in this course is the energy molecule that actually allows it to be removed. So a lot of energy and calcium needed for movement as well. Smooth muscle. These not under your voluntary control. This is what we call the autonomic nervous system. You don't have to pay attention to it. Smooth muscles are found in the hollow structures of the stomach, the blood vessels, small and large intestine. They move food through your digestive tract, and they control the way blood flows through your circulatory system. Nonetheless, they do flex, and because of that flexion, they also need energy and calcium. Cardiac muscle is found in just one place, that is your heart. This is the first muscle you ever began moving, right? Even within the first trimester, you have the heart pumping and still pumping consistently. Just to understand a little bit of the difference in the physiology and to appreciate it, I would urge you to try this. Right after I give you the instructions, pause it and do it. Take your right hand, or your left hand if you prefer, whichever one, and I want you to just kind of do this throwing motion. Now you can be flicking your hands out, or you can kind of focus on the grabbing, or you can do both. I just want you to do this for 60 seconds straight. See what that feels like. You'll find that you're going to be much more appreciative of your heart and the constant pumping it does. 60 beats per minute for 60 minutes an hour. How many hours? 24 in a year. For a lifetime, billions of beats, and you never feel what you felt in your arm if you pause the video and tried it. So there's something definitely different about the physiology between these two muscles, that when you do this with your forearm, you feel a burning sensation. You do it with your heart, well, you don't even feel it at all. So cardiac muscle is pretty special. If you think about your arm and feeling that in the heart, again, not feeling it, the difference there, one of the differences there, and the kind of contraction that the heart does requires, again, calcium. And in this case, even more calcium for totally separate function. That sustained beat that circulates blood requires that. So just adding to the need for calcium in your body as well as other things. Potassium. Potassium is another important nutrient for your heart muscles. Cardiac muscle is striated, like skeletal muscle, although its cells are smaller. Cardiac muscle usually have one nucleus, but they may have two, binucleated. And it's small, similar to smooth muscle because it's not under the direct control of your central nervous system. The heart actually is able to cause itself to beat. You might have heard of this. The brain does regulate, the brain does monitor your heart, but for the most part, it's a hands-off kind of control. It's more of an overseer, and the heart is self-stimulating. So that's pretty cool. Okay, Okay, I just want to give you a quick review of the three kinds of muscle: cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and skeletal muscle. There are some things each have in common, and each have different from each other. And they're necessary for movement. What you heard here is that you need a lot of sugar, energy. You need a lot of calcium. Calcium, all of them need calcium in order to move, but the heart particularly needs calcium and potassium as nutrients for proper heartbeat, the duration, so you don't have the fluttering, and as far as energy, so you don't fatigue. Fatiguing of skeletal muscles probably due to oxygen and sugar reserves. You need plenty of sugar. The creatine that some bodybuilders like to use is thought to be a quick source of energy and to help relieve skeletal muscles from producing their own. So you might have seen supplements or heard of supplements like the creatine that they take to build muscle. But otherwise, I'm done with this review. And thank you for watching. That's all in under 10 minutes.